States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Brenda, would you do the roll call, please?
Sure. President Klein-Jerome?
Here.
Vice President Poston?
Here.
Director Barnes?
Here.
Director Beck? Here. Director Hayes?
Here.
Director Potts?
Here.
Director Ward?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Director Hayes, would you please read the mission and vision statement?
Yes, ma'am, I'll be happy to. The Davenport Community School District is dedicated to growing excellence in academics, the arts, and athletics of every child by ensuring the highest quality education in an environment shaped by our diverse community, preparing our students to be lifelong learners and productive citizens. Our vision statement is education that challenges conventional thinking, prepares all students to compete in a global society, and inspires our students, parents, staff, and community. To answer the question, what if?
Thank you. Director Ward, could you read the guiding principles? You know what? I'm going to turn this over to Director Beck because it's easier when you're in person to read this. So.
Guiding principles. Opportunity. We provide abundant opportunities to empower students to reach their full potential academically, creatively, and socially. Collaboration. We foster an environment that allows students, families, and community stakeholders to come together for the betterment of our students' education and future. Transparency. We share relevant and important information with our students, families, and the community to maintain open and productive communication.
Thank you. And Superintendent Schneckloff, could you read the goals?
Today, a focus of goal number 4 to foster the innovative use of finances, facilities, and staff.
Thank you. Now I will conduct a public hearing for approval of the 95% plans and specifications for the West High School tennis court renovations. Notice of the hearing was published in the Quad City Times on August 11th, 2025. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, please step forward to the microphone or call 1-312-626-6799 and enter meeting ID 993-8280-6586. And the passcode is 425237. State your name and address for the record. Anybody here? Anybody online? Seeing and hearing none, I now declare the public hearing closed. May I have a motion?
Madam President,
Director Hayes.
I move the board approve the plans and specifications for the West High Tennis Court Replacement Project as shown in the 95% plan and specifications.
Could I have?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any comments? Okay, this is a roll call vote. Director Barnes.
My vote is yes.
Director Beck.
Yes.
Director Hayes.
Yes.
Director Poston.
Yes.
Director Potts.
Yes.
Director Ward.
Yes.
And my vote is yes. Motion carries. Next up is Junior Achievement Board presentation. Turned over to Superintendent.
Yeah, thank you. Today, I'm very excited. We have a team of people to talk to us about some of the exciting things that are going on inside of our district with the partnership with JA. JA is a critical component of our work-based learning experiences and career exploration. The majority of how our elementary students explore careers is done through JA and volunteers in our community. I liken it to every one of us are in the position we're in because someone tapped us on the shoulder and said, hey, you'd probably be a good, or hey, have you ever thought of? And that's exactly what JA does for us. Today with us, we have Bonnie Acey. She's the Director of Elementary Learning Results. We have Principal Vincent with us, so thank you for coming after your very busy day today, first day of school, coming to a board meeting. So we put you first, so thank you for that. And then Stacy Volliger, our Senior Education Manager for Junior Achievement. So thank you so much for joining us today. We're very excited to hear about this partnership between Davenport Schools and JA. So I'll turn it over. Thank you, Ms. Hayes.
Sure. Well, thanks for doing introductions for us. So that was our first page. Here we are. So we're going to go ahead and jump right in, and I'm going to hand it over to Stacy to tell us just a little bit about JA.
Sure. Thanks, everybody. Excited to be here tonight. So, kind of been listening to your guiding principles, your mission. JA coincides very well with all of that. We too are all about empowering students for future success. So, we want them to have the tools necessary to be responsible citizens, productive employees that every community needs. To have that financial savvy, to instill that entrepreneurial mindset, as well as help them to be work and career ready. So that's really the main goal of our K through 12 JA programs. So it works very well with the strategic plan for the Davenport School District.
So we wanted to start with just talking about a few better. A few of the outcomes from the 24-25 school year. So when we're thinking about elementary, we had with JA Biztown, that's where they go and they do the actual field trip down to JA Biztown. 935 of our fifth grade students engaged in that immersive economic simulation. For JA in a Day, we had the following buildings actually implement JA in a Day building wide for K through fourth grade. That was Fillmore, McKinley, Wilson, and Madison. And then this last year, we added 3 new sites to that JA in a Day model, which we'll talk a little bit more about later. But that was Buffalo, Walcott, and Garfield. And with those buildings that joined in the spring this past year, they also got to participate in the fifth grade career speaker series, which was a new event that we can have Stacy talk more about, but it really brought in our community partners into the building to talk to our kiddos about jobs, careers, really got them excited about that real world connection within those buildings. It was a really big success. We surveyed all of our JA in a Day building educators, and 79% of them surveyed it either strongly agree or agree that the JA in a Day model was an effective model. And just to speak a little bit to why we wanted to explore that model is, when we started really working and collaborating well with JA about 4 or 5 years ago, we had a really strong goal of equity, of ensuring that all of our students would get to participate in all of the programs, not just, well, you're lucky because you got enough volunteers, but this building maybe didn't. And so we started small and made sure we had enough to build upon and grow, and this was one way of being more flexible with our volunteers to say it might be hard to do a traditional model where you come one time, a week versus I can come one day and commit my time and get through kind of all of the lessons in a day and make it more of a in-house field trip kind of a thing. So that was what JA in a Day school was. And so we'll move on to middle school. So in 6th grade, we had 778 students participate in Economics for Success, which was a financial literacy opportunity. 791 students from Smart, Sutho, Walcott, Williams, and Wood participated also in that JA Career Speaker Series, which was really a lot of work and super awesome. They were really excited about that. And 8th grade, we had 853 students engage in JA Inspire Career Expo, which partners with our DCSD Career Fair. At high school, for Mid-City, we had 23 students participate in the JA Take Stock in Your Future and JA Stock Market Challenge. At West, we had 30 students participate in a number of different JA programs, including JA Titan and JA Titan Competition. You'll notice that only represents 2 of our high schools, which as we've gone from elementary up and we're really working on that equity consideration, we have some good goals this year that we'll talk about next over expanding that equity focus for all of our high schools. So when we're thinking about JA programming goals for 25-26, We really make sure that we're aligning JA programming opportunities with our DCSD course offerings, our CTE pathways. We want to make sure that, like Stacy said, it really fits with our goals and our vision. We also collaborate with building and curriculum leaders to identify what that looks like to have those equitable participation strategies at the high school level. We know that that's really important and the next step that we want to get to. And we continue to collect data to assess those program impact and engagement, which Stacy and her team are really great at providing us every year. So when we're thinking about, again, kind of those program goals for this year, what we're prioritizing, elementary will stay very similar to what it was this year, where we are committed to every student in every building being delivered the JA grade level program, which is either through a traditional model or the JA in a day model, which you can see those buildings opted to continue with that model. All fifth grade will continue to go to JA Biztown, and we will continue to do the fifth grade career speaker series. Middle school will continue with the JA financial literacy lessons, which are actually done right in our grade 6 social studies class. Sixth grade career speaker series will come back because it was a success, and we will implement JA Inspire with that partnership for eighth graders down at the career fair. At high school, this is where we're really going to expand and prioritize. Those just give the dates of those programs that we want to make sure are available and have the opportunity for all of our high schools. And I wanted to have Mr. Aaron talk a little bit about JA in a day.
Yeah, thank you so much for allowing us to come and talk today. Wanted to first start out, my first several years as a principal at McKinley, we're very fortunate to have several volunteers be able to come in and be able to go through the JA, spread out over semester as well too in the time. But we didn't have volunteers for every single classroom at that time. And working collaboratively with Bonnie and also Stacy here, we were able to come up with the design of the JA in a day, which has been very smooth and has worked out very well. Actually, we have one set up for October 15th this year. We already have all volunteers except for 4 set up right now as well too. Stacy does an outstanding job of connecting, and we work with our teachers as well to make sure if we have volunteers that have done the JA program in our building before, we ask them to be able to come back as well too. And they're very welcoming and want to be able to come back as well. We work through the schedule because we know schedules sometimes are a little bit more difficult, but we want to be able to have some flexibility in there as well. In the JA in a day with the lessons that are being taught and being able to break them up throughout the day for students to be able to have some different breaks. But we also know that the lessons are very interactive as well throughout the day. I can't speak highly enough about the program itself. I would say the biggest challenges that we run into is that our primary grade levels a little bit more with the scheduling and needing some more breaks along the way as well too. And that's something that we take that feedback that we receive from our teachers and staff as well too, to how we can enhance and make it even better for our future as well.
So we were just going to open it up to any questions that you might have for any of us.
Director Beck.
Thank you. So first of all, thank you guys for coming to share this with us. I have a couple questions. The first one is, what exactly is the JA Inspire and the JA Titan? Like, how do those differ from, say, the elementary program where somebody comes and runs activities with them?
Sure. Those are, the JA Titan is more of an entrepreneurial program where students are, they work in teams of 3 to 4. It's a business simulation that they're doing, and so they're competing with other teams here locally. And then we take the top 2 teams that go on to a scholarship competition that we offer usually the week following. And then the top 3 teams there will be awarded scholarship dollars for first, second, and third. So they're making decisions about their business and how to compete in the marketplace, price, production, marketing, R&D, community investment, those sorts of things. And so that's what the Titan is. JA Inspire, or the JA Inspire is a work and career readiness. It kind of follows that pathway. So the work and career readiness pathway. So then what we do is all of the eighth grade students attend our JA Inspire, and this one is scheduled for November 13th and 14th, I believe, this year over at the Bend. And we have all of the 16 various career sets all over there, and they kind of wind through, and they can do hands-on, they can answer questions. There's a whole host of different businesses that are there over the 2 days, and we have schools come through over those 2 days and spend a couple of hours getting a chance to talk to people. What are the skills necessary? What does this job entail? It just opens their eyes to all of the possibilities that are out there for them for, one day, and maybe it's something they thought about, maybe it's something they've not thought about. So it's really cool. It's very well received here.
And my second question is for kind of all of you, but especially Mr. Vincent. The JA Day, I know it sounds like you're jamming a lot into one day. And so there's like advantages to that because you get through it all and you have your volunteers. But if you spread things out, sometimes there's a little more time to process and retain and follow up. Do you have an opportunity to do any follow up and see what the students take out of it sort of long term? Like if they do JA Day, on the 15th, if you came back, say in 2 months, would they be able to answer a basic question like, about one of the main concepts they learned about that day?
Right.
Or do you have an opportunity even to do that, to sort of reiterate throughout the year what they learned?
That is something that I don't have an answer for right away with the follow-up pieces, but there are pieces that are embedded in different pieces of our curriculum throughout the year as well too. So we're doing a little pre-teaching that could be followed up in their ELA curriculum, the CKLA Amplify as well too. I will say it is K through 4, and it's on the same day that we do our 5th grade BizTown trip as well too. So our 5th graders are going down to BizTown at that same time. And last year we had 17 volunteers that were in doing the lessons as well too. And it's a perfect way to be able to bring our volunteers in. And I know I'm kind of going off of your question here a little bit too, but it's a perfect way to get our volunteers in and learn about our school and our community as well too. And then that follow-up would be embedded into different curriculums throughout the year.
I think to add to that a little bit, from someone who's taught in the traditional model this past year, I would say a little bit of the retention stays a little bit more in the JA in a day because I'm not having to reteach when I come back a whole week. And remember when we talked last week all the way about these new vocabulary words? So you do a lot of kind of reteaching and reviewing before you can jump into the lesson. And, you're kind of strapped with this amount of time that you have as the volunteer coming in to teach the lesson. So we didn't get to get in as much to the engagement or the connection. I noticed in JA in a day, they seem to really get to do the activities more in detail because they have maybe just a little bit more time and aren't as rushed to I got to go to specials in 2 minutes and I've got this in 5 minutes, and just is a little more flexible. Like he said, they've kind of fine-tuned that schedule of what it looks like.
Anybody else? Director Poston.
Bonnie, would you notify Brenda of all the dates, both with JA in a day, BizTown, and just so she can notify us when those take place? Okay.
Anybody else? I have 2 questions. Is JA in a day? I was on the traditional, they come in for 5 or 6 weeks. Is it the exact same thing, or do you add things because it's all in a day, or it's just those lessons?
It's the same curriculum.
Okay.
It's just kind of as Bonnie mentioned, you don't have to do an introduction each time because
Sure.
they are being presented back to back. There's not that summary and review following each session unless they've gone to lunch or there's been a bit of a break because, they're all, they're receiving everything right then and there.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And then high school, you only had 23 and 30 that participated. How did you select those 23 or 30? Or when you talk about equity, obviously in high school, you're not going to get everybody into the JA. So how do you select 23 or 30 of them?
Well, we don't select them. They decide to participate. We've got connections with different educators. Obviously, we do reach out to all the principals and share these opportunities with them. And then they, in turn, I think, share it out with their staff. It's typically either business students, tech students. It just kind of depends on the school and who they'd like to have participate. So it's generally for a business class for West. And then with the Mid-City High, they like all of the, those opportunities. And their kids have done fairly well too. I mean, it instills with like our JA programs, it's instilling confidence. Maybe they don't win, but they've certainly walked away learning something. They felt good about themselves for how well they did. So that's always kind of fun.
So basically, we're just being represented by West and Mid-City. North and Central aren't participating very much. Is that?
That was last year, and our goal is to hopefully get some folks there
Okay.
involved this year. Right. That doesn't take place until October 21st. And so I'm working with the high school team on trying to get more students involved with that.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Thank you very much.
Sure.
Very informative.
Thanks, everybody.
Next up is long-range facility planning update. Turn it over to the superintendent.
Thank you. Today we have John and Joe with us today. All the information that was shared here today, we discussed at our last long-range facility board meeting a couple Fridays ago, I believe. And basically, the phase 2 portion of where we are headed with the next section is what we're going to kind of review today, get feedback, go from here. So, John and Joe, thank you guys for being here today, and I'll turn it over to you. Huh? Yeah.
That was just an exercise to see how patiently you could wait. Um, thanks for having us here. We did meet recently and talk through a whole bunch of the different pieces of this process. So I just wanted to walk you through what we've been doing. Taking advantage of the summer months was good because we were able to get some things done. We worked through facility update, capacity study update. We've had several meetings related to preschool, our continuum of care, and then organization related to our facilities master plan committee. This is the fall iteration of the master plan process, and then the spring will come with some additional things. So as it relates to the facility assessment, if you remember, there was about a 600 or 700 page set of books that were produced that reviewed every building throughout the district. So we're not redoing that. We're going through and validating what's in there. So what has happened since we last did that? You're 3 buildings less. You've done re-roofing projects. You've done some maintenance and repair projects. And then there might be the outside curveball that something might have, changed in terms of maybe it went from moderate to poor condition. So what we're doing is reviewing, revising, and updating this so that it kind of reflects where you're at today. And then the recommendation would be that just the district continue to do this on about every 5-year basis. You could do it every year, but that's a lot. Every 5 years makes sense because you could go through and really tabulate those changes that are done. So just to remind you what's in those, all the building systems, so your plumbing, HVAC, electrical, life safety. So life safety is fire alarm, fire sprinkler systems, some of your technology systems. Architectural, so interior, exterior, ADA, site. Oh, this is interesting. I think Truman's on the picture on the lower right, and Joe had a bunch of work done there this past year. So things like that get accounted for. So it'll give you a good picture of the things that have happened over the course of the last 3 years. So that's real fast snapshot on facilities. Capacities. So the capacity study was really the grounds for a lot of changes that happened with the last master planning study. So we wanted to go back and do a little bit of evaluation of where does the district sit currently. Again, you've gone down 3 buildings. You've had some other changes. So we do the same process that we did before. So we go through, we analyze your buildings, we talk to the administrator at each building, get a sense of how the rooms are being used, what programming's in there. It allows us to do a calculation of where you're at with your capacity of each building. Some of the factors that apply. You are 3 buildings less. You've moved 6th graders from your elementaries to the middle schools. And then we also have projects at Sudlow, FL Smart, and North High School. So those 3 projects themselves inherently create a change. So FL Smart and Sudlow are being built with a capacity to reflect some of the changes that were done in the first master plan. North High School, the best thing that I could say is that improvement project helps to right size that building. So it provides the right kind of rooms for the right programming that's in there. So where our big burden is, looking at all the other buildings. When you look at enrollment, and I just tracked from 2012, we had enrollment going back to the 70s. But just to think about this in a slightly more than a decade view, you were at 15,900-ish in 2012, and the district is currently floating just above 12,000 students in enrollment for last school year. The big question in terms of master planning as we move forward is what is the enrollment target that we need to hit? We could plan everything around 12,000, but really it's where do we see the floor of the declining enrollment? And that likely is going to be a number that we all have to agree that will move towards. And the next thing is what is the appropriate time frame that enrollment is hit, because that will inform some of the decision making as we move into the next phase of master planning. I just took a picture of one building, just random grabbed a building. If you compare the 2022 to the 2025, one of the questions we had was your building was full in 2022, and this goes for pretty much all of your elementary schools. What's different is we had a series of rooms, 6th grade, that were in each building that we're now not having 6th grade in. What we have found is that they have filled those rooms with other programming. So one of the things that will come up in a couple of segments is what some of that programming is and what it might drive us to start thinking about. So generally the occupant load of the building, each building is down because we've had a decline in enrollment, but we're filling that space in the buildings currently. So not saying it's the right space or the wrong space, but we're using it. When you look at the capacity then, we just turned the previous buildings to 0, Buchanan, Monroe, Washington. We had Davenport Learning Center, we've said is 0 because that has a different enrollment. So we just compared the other buildings. If you have your total enrollment at 12,785, we're calculating of all buildings, including the children's villages, a minimum capacity of 13,760 and a maximum capacity at 15,754. So you have anywhere from 1,000 to 3,000 additional seats of capacity as we look at the district. So we're not making any decisions or making any statements as to what we're doing with that information. This is part of the master planning process, which is problem seeking. So we're identifying factors that are going to help drive some of the master planning that happens as we move through this process. But this is an interesting finding on two parts. One, those numbers were much greater the last time we ran the capacity analysis. There were 3 buildings that are no longer in service, so that helps that capacity drop. But then with the decline in enrollment, there is still additional capacity in the district. So hopefully that makes sense in terms of explanation. So I went through that kind of quick. We can come back for questions and answers. Preschool, we started back in May. Really the kind of the 3 big things that we did through the summer was we started compiling data. We tried to define the problem and establish goals. So the team that worked on preschool was great. They came armed with lots and lots of information and actually a pretty good healthy dialogue as to how we start moving forward with preschool. So right out of the gate, the current problem is there's not enough space to serve every 4-year-old in the district. The current makeup of how you service preschool would, even if you enrolled every 4-year-old in the district, you wouldn't have enough physical space for them. You are currently serving 500 4-year-olds. That's distributed between the Children's Village West, Children's Village Hoover, and then a series of school-based locations, which is Buffalo, Hayes, Jackson, Madison, and Truman. One thing that we identified is if you look at the kindergarten enrollment, you float somewhere in the range of about 900 students of incoming kindergartners, which means there's 300 to 400 4-year-olds that you're not capturing. So that's where that deficit is. A couple other things that we discussed as problems. You have a preschool administrator that has to travel between multiple facilities. We identified that some of the barriers to enrollment are cost, transportation, wraparound care. Another one I didn't write down here was confusion, just not understanding what's available and how to connect with the right solution. And then there's another one, just partner sites aren't always available, which means the district is there to fill that gap. So when we started establishing goals, I think it was TJ that said this very well. The district should strive to be the first solution provider for children in the district. So for families, if the Davenport School District is that solution provider, that district or in the district, you've got that family now from 4-year-old all the way through their high school experience. It pretty much, because of what we learned through the problem-seeking phase, we need a district-wide solution, something that encapsulate all of the district, not just certain areas within the district. How do you know what the right number is then? So if there's 800 to 900 kindergartners enrolling each year, and we know that there are a certain number of outside providers, people will stay aligned with those. The real goal is 80 to 90% of the 4-year-olds in the district, knowing that we're not going to capture 100%. So the reasonable number is 700. So that is a number that we have discussed as the foundation of how we plan out solutions. It's important to think about consolidating or improving the operational efficiency of preschool planning. Having said that, when we talk solution options, it'll start to make sense. But depending on how you solve this, you're going to have the cost of an administrator moving around, a secretary, a nurse, any other kind of provider that happens to be in any facility.
I think it's also fair to say, John, that this board has always given us the direction where we can eliminate a roof.
Fair.
And we know what comes with that, and that's in direct correlation with the slides previous. And so
Yeah.
I think that's been our charge all along the way: be efficient with our tax dollars.
While doing that, improve the access for 4-year-old special education. So providing service for special education for our preschoolers. Providing access to wraparound care, and then just providing more clarity to the community for what is available, so that messaging is an important part of whatever the solution is for preschool. So back to the current reality, you have Children's Village West, Children's Village Hoover. There are more classrooms, therefore more students at West than at Hoover. Each requires a secretary, nurse, administrative support. You have your administrator primarily moving between those buildings for that programming. You have the 5 school-based preschools. So Buffalo is morning, Hayes is afternoon, Jackson is morning with wraparound service, Madison is afternoon with wraparound service. So afternoon, morning with wraparound means you're having that extra care so that student stays in the building the whole day. And then Truman has morning and afternoon. Your typical class size is 20 students. Your supports are not centralized, and we feel that there's inconsistent access across the district. You could tell just by the listing of buildings, there's portions of town that aren't necessarily covered or don't have the same kind of access. So we've worked through a whole lot of different conversations from the term benchmarking. We've considered how other districts solve the problem, discussed what might be appropriate for this district, and essentially we have charted out a series of scenarios. Those scenarios need to be reviewed, validated, and proofed, and then we would like to measure these with the input of families in the district. But the 4 scenarios result in different things for the district. For example, scenario 1, a centralized children's village as a single center central to the district would reduce some of that administrative burden, provide some of that efficiency with a series of school-based preschools. The idea here being 2 school-based per region, so 2 east, 2 north, 2 west, and then 1 out on the western edge of the district. We feel this is probably one of the better scenarios, but in the vein of looking at all sorts of options, perhaps you don't do any school-based and you do 3 children's village centers, 1 in each, 1 north, 1 east, 1 west, and then you'd have your school-based out on the western set of schools, which would become your center out there. This one gives you the ability to provide access regionally, but might create more of an administrative burden. We could go with 1 centralized children's village, so 1 center for the whole district. This might be the most efficient. This is being done elsewhere. The problem is it might be perceived as less access for families, might have a transportation component to help improve access. And then the fourth scenario is perhaps every elementary has some sort of solution for preschool. The one drawback to this, so this might seem as the most access, but the biggest drawback is it can create additional burdens for each building administrator, and not every building may be suited for this, because there are burdens of how you get in the building, how you get out of the building for pickup and drop off, playground, some of the other programmatic things like bathrooms and toilets for littles might not be appropriate at each building. So these are 4 scenarios that we've kind of arrived at. We are still working with these. This is the foundation of how we arrive at a single scenario that will become a recommendation to the board later.
Can I stop there? My understanding is this was going to be a phase 2 issue. Okay. Because it seems you've spelled it out. And if we're going to say the phase 2 committee, we have nothing. This seems a little too spelled out for me to say
No,
we don't have anything.
that's a good question. When you look at phase 1, we brought forth 24 different scenarios for grade configurations. This would be the very similar. What are the different configurations we could do?
Okay.
And so this is just a start of those configurations. Otherwise, we would get in that room and say, well, what configurations do you think we should have? We went back and forth with this at our long range meeting, but we thought it was incumbent upon us to start with what's out there. And these are the most prominent things that are out there right now. And so it was following the same footprint as phase 1.
Okay, thank you. Clarify that. Director Barnes.
I know you said you were going to take questions at the end, but I wanted to ask a quick question about the capacity study and how you're looking at employees in the district as well, and how that figures into the calculation, especially with, I think, what's coming as we talk about need for more supports.
Maybe we get through the next section and come back to that. Yeah. I'll try to remember that one. Yes, we are going to take scenarios. We're going to talk through a process of getting the pros and cons and feedback from the parents and administrators in the district, and the goal is to funnel to a single recommendation for the board. Continuum of care. This also started in May and followed a similar process to preschool. So we needed to understand data, define what the problem is, and establish some goals. Defining the problem, it's a smattering of things. Environmental layout matters for the students needing support, meaning often the solution is we have an extra room, we have a number of enrolled students, we're going to stick them in a room. And that may not be most appropriate for those students. There is a goal to minimize off-site programming. The district enrollment is decreasing, but the number of students needing supports is increasing. So this starts to get at Director Barnes's question. There is a need to provide support before off-site services are provided. So not just shoving the kids off to some other solution provider, but handling that in the district. There's a missing step in terms of being a resource and providing programming for behavioral disability and intellectual disability. And I'm going to add one more, and this is the architect's perspective, but the way supports are solved in the district appears to be reactive. So enrollment changes year over year. You'll see that in a second. We'll have a graph for you. But as that changes, we don't have a real defined plan of where we're solving it or how we're solving it. we tend to say, oh, we have room here, and we funnel that there. And so what this process will want to do is become more prescriptive as to what you're providing and where, so that you're not always reacting and trying to find something, which then also produces some of these other problems that are being listed. So the areas of focus in the continuum of care were listed as BD, behavioral disability, learning or intellectual disability, ID, physical impairment, anything related to mobility, hearing, vision, situations requiring toileting and domestic assistance. And then we need to make sure we also account for the fact that our site or campus where we're making solutions will matter. So having multi-level buildings, the right playground equipment, the right access in and out of our building will have an impact on how we solve this. So your supports, the one that says L pound is supposed to be L3, but your supports since 95 to 2024 have grown. So just from the bottom moving up, the very top line is your total enrollment and supports. The 3 lines below are the levels 1, 2, and 3. The numbers have increased, in total over time. And I will show you in a comparative. If you show the total district enrollment and then overlay that with the total supports enrollment, in 2012, supports was about 12% of your total enrollment, and it's over 15% today. So the proportionate amount of students requiring support is greater now than it has been in the past. So that's an important piece of information. So when establishing goals, providing a consistent option for programming access to supports, distributing programs to buildings within each region. So we wanted to make sure that we have a regional-based solution. So there's a solution for each type within each region to improve access for the families. Making sure that preschool families are included in solutions for anything in the continuum of care. Supports to have a regional pathway related to our feeder system. Our high schools already have supports. Our middle schools, as we planned out SMART and Sudlow, we provided for ID and BD and some of our other supports. We need to make sure our other 2 middle schools have those same solutions. And then for elementary schools, having a regional solution for how we handle supports in each region is needed. We want to have a solution for extreme care, such as autism. And then the district goal is to not send students out of district or off-site if at all possible. And one other thing to note is often a student may be with an outside provider, but ultimately those students tend to arrive back at the district at some point. So you have a tendency to see students might go to an outside provider, but eventually make it back to you as a provider for the district. Your current reality. The district organization is reactive, so it fluctuates with enrollment, with changes in need, and with available space throughout the buildings in your district. Your ID programming is handled at a number of buildings in each region. So Walcott, Buffalo, Jackson, Hayes, Truman, Fillmore, Adams, Eisenhower, Garfield, Jefferson. You currently have 3 Strat 1 teachers per building, 2 Strat 2 teachers per building. Your Thrive Rise program is at the DLC. Thrive is 6 to 8 students per grade level, grades 3 through 10. They require more interventionist space. They need more social workers and staff. Rise is your long-term discipline issues. It's a temporary placement. before returning back to their home campus. 10 per classroom, 2 classrooms per grade, and they predominantly focus on general education when in the building. And Thrive and Rise need to be isolated from one another. So we also talked that,
Sorry, I just want to clarify. Thrive would be considered special education. Rise is general education. Is that correct? In terms of the dollars and the students and their weighting? Okay, thank you.
BD and ID as a solution at the elementary level. It was noted that it's best if those can be separated to different buildings. So the reason being is if you put BD and ID together in elementary building, it's going to put an undue burden on the administrators of that building. So separating that will be helpful. That's not necessarily the same when we're talking about middle school and high school. The solution generally is having one BD solution per region at the elementary level, one ID solution at the elementary level in each region. So that provides that access to families. Having that as a set location with the right kind of space means we know where that's going. We can plan for it. We can account for it. We can have the right facilities for that. Having a district solution at each level, elementary, middle, high school, for autism gives us the ability to solve what's needed for those extreme cases. We do need a single situation for Thrive Rise that can be its own facility, that can be a wing of a building. It needs to be isolated from wherever it's located. Currently, the DLC may not be the best location for that program. Strat 2, 2 teachers per building, so making sure we have accounted for that appropriately in our buildings. And Strat 1, that exists in buildings. There's 2 classrooms per building. That where it says 1 per building, that's each building has a solution with 2 classrooms. So the tie back into the capacity is we have moved at the elementary level 6th graders to the middle schools. The majority of what's filling those spaces are supports, but we are filling big classrooms with that, and that may not be what's needed for these programs. It's because it's available. So what is best is to have the right kind of spaces, which may be some simple adaptations. For a Strat 1 or a Strat 2, it may be as simple as you don't need a full-size classroom, but a half-size classroom. So maybe there's a situation where you're just fitting the right kind of space, which would free up other rooms in the building for other programming. As we look at this, a couple of things that are important is making sure that the rooms with ID are going to have some very specific needs. Certain needs related to bathrooming, changing, access for life skills, certain kind of equipment for playground. BD might be something completely different in each building. For our look at each facility in each region, it is making sure that the buildings that we solve this at are located where the access in and out of the building is appropriate, that there's appropriate space that we can put the right kind of rooms in, and then just in terms of district in total, having a plan of how you can solve having the right kind of spaces in your buildings will help you better respond to the growing needs of supports, because even as your population is decreasing, you are still increasing that need in the district for supports. Director Barnes, I'm not sure if that fully covered, but it sort of hints at what you were asking about the type of staff.
It does. It hints at it. I think it would be helpful to understand the student capacity and then also the employee capacity and what that looks like, because while we see the shrinking student capacity and it might lead all of us to believe, oh my gosh, we've got all this excess space, we are seeing the supports rise, and that requires space also. So it would just be a curiosity, if nothing
It
else.
does, and part of this too is consolidating some of those regionally so that you're not trying to solve the same problem everywhere, but doing it regionally should improve the access for the families and help the efficiency of how the district operates. The last little piece of this, the Facility Master Plan Committee. So we have one parent, one staff per building identified. The invitations have gone out. The last time we met, it was related to something different. So this time we're coming at them very, very specifically. In part one, early learning. So we are saying, how should we configure, locate, and organize our response for early learning and our continuum of care services? What's the best approach to aligning the number and type of buildings with the current and projected enrollment for those programs? So there's 4 meetings set. They start in September and they run through October. The goal is to validate and provide feedback for the solutions that the scenarios that we're gonna take to them. The goal is somewhere in November or after to provide a recommendation for both those. Gave you just a quick agenda of what these meetings are, but the first one is welcome everybody, set up the ground rules of how we're playing, give them the background of what happened in the first iteration of the master planning process, just to give them some insights, because not all of these people were participants in that. We want to do just a cursory overview of early ed, how it works in the district currently. Do an introduction to continuum of care, how it works in the district currently. Then meeting 2 is 100% focused on early learning. Meeting 3 is 100% focused on continuum of care. Meeting 4 is bringing all of it together towards a recommended solution, with the idea of the next meeting is a presentation to the board with a recommendation. So these are long work sessions. I believe we have a pretty good list of people generated for participating. So, and I think that covers the whole overview.
And just to clarify, these are the programs that we feel that we need to do this right away before the December decision-making filling station day for us. Because if we are going to add programming for the 26-27 school year, we have to have that decision done to where we can vote on it in November. So there is a longer section of facility master planning phase 2. Would you just give a real brief highlight of what those notes are, for example, CTE, things like that, those other programs?
Yep. So as we look into part 2, career education is going to be big. So understanding how we solve that. We do also want to look at any other programming specific to our buildings that might have a space implication, but then the other is thinking big picture of what are these numbers that we're talking about now want to tell us about our buildings and how we're thinking about them currently. So that is all going to be part of the spring portion of that committee's work.
I think it would be really helpful if we put together that timeline, you know, the Gantt chart that you share, because I think that shows the whole 1.5 year long process that we're getting ready to go through, where this is the first 6 months of it, because we have to really seek this feedback to see if we can make a decision in November of what are we what does our community want from us in terms of continuum of care and preschool, because those were the first charges that were given to us. So that's why we're specifically talking about that today, with more to come. So I think in a board report we'll put together that Gantt chart so that people can see that. I'll make a note of that, John.
Okay, we'll start with questions. I'll start with Jake. Do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have a question? Director Bonds.
Okay, I think two quick questions. You do a lot of these. It seems like we've done a lot with phase one. How does our sort of velocity of fidelity to the plan compare to other districts? Is this kind of a natural moment to really be thinking about phase two?
Yes, mostly because you have this, if you look at that chart with enrollment, and then you think about even just the graph with the continuum of care, those supports numbers, clearly anytime where you have these changes, it's a good idea to think about what you need to do to improve how you're doing what you do. It does not mean you have to make any rash decisions of changes in number of buildings or anything like that. But generally, it's very healthy for a district on a 5-year basis to do something like this. You're a little bit ahead of that, but then again, I think the numbers are indicative that by the time you get to the end of this planning process, you're about 5 years out. So it's appropriate.
The second, and I think related, is you referenced that the school district is maybe not always proactive in thinking about the space needed for skills. Can you explain that to me like a third grader, that a skills room sort of becomes the whatever leftover closet or space that's reactive, rather than saying every single one of our schools needs this type of space in order to accommodate this particular issue? Is that what you're
Sort of, yeah. So generally, you have providers that come in to your building, whether it's employees of the district or partnering organizations, AEA, any of these other people that help do supports. You have 4 extra classrooms in the building, and you have 2 classes of Strat 1. So Strat 1 tends to be maybe 3 to 7 kids at a time. You can already tell that 3 to 7 is a lot smaller than you would put in a full-size classroom. You might have an outside support provider come in for some other activity where it's 1-on-3, 1-on-2, 1-on-1. So you tend to take a large classroom and you might put several people in the same room, which works, but it doesn't always honor the privacy, that separation that's required between those students. And then in extreme cases, yes, sometimes things happen and you adapt a little space in a hallway or this or that, so it's just not always appropriate. But for the most part, what we've found is you've absorbed a lot of the extra classroom space and you're putting multiple solutions in those spaces, and it's not bad, it's just they're not designed for that. The more extreme situation is if you have a heavy burden of ID especially, it does require extra facilities and just making sure whatever you have for a solution for that, the building's built for that, and that'll make that program successful.
A quick follow up to that, and just again my naivete on this. And when you say a room or a building or a place built for that, there's some standard out there. It's not that we're going to listen to beloved whiz bang outside provider who wants things set up like this that is going to add cost. We're going to use whatever the sort of standard is for that level of care.
Yes. This is not something that's built on request, but it's built on the solving the programmatic need. So yeah.
To piggyback on that, the programming in our district has the reactive portion has a tendency to move from this building to that building and retrofit it into a classroom where it's not near a bathroom, it's not near a cool down space, it's not near all of the things necessary to where if there's an actual study being done where we can create a lovely space with all of the things research says that we should have, but it's also all along our busing routes. We have decades of data that says this is our programming, these are our programming needs. So to get into that and take a look at, okay, this is a wonderful space, and there are places in our district that have that. I think of several elementary schools that have perfect spaces that are wonderfully adapted for the needs of the students. And what if we have that in every single region and can get a cadence and get a good routine of this is what we do in this region. The other thing, to your point, is when you have those regional style programs, you can really consolidate staff, and the positions that we're talking about are really hard to find. And so this notion that we establish a program in there, it's easier to staff that way because you're able to share staff in that way. The other thing is when it's a predictable environment and a really nice environment, it'll attract the high quality staff to come to those programs as well. So that's what I really like, looking up at the horizon, hope to see this natural path inside of each building where it's very efficient, both with our time and resources, whether it be busing, human capital. You also get an elementary, middle school, high school principal or department head or somebody that's really good with those with the families and parents, to where it'll almost be a draw. And we see that in some of our buildings with long-lasting staff members in buildings that really, I mean, think of Bob Schnaden. You know, all of our parents and families were drawn to him. So those are some of the really exciting things that I can see aligning outside of this work in this arena.
Is that it? Director Barnes? Okay. Anybody else? No? Director Poston?
Well, I'd just like to echo what Director Barnes and our superintendent said. When I've made school visits, yes, there are rooms that are more than adequate for our needs, but then there are a lot that are not adequate. So again, I think we're headed in the right direction as far as looking what our needs are. And the other question I have is on these 4 meetings this fall, where are they going to take place? Right here. Okay.
Director Beck?
I have a couple questions. So when we're talking about, for example, behavioral disability program, students, I know we talk about how students, the goal ultimately with most students is to hope that they can not be in that special education program forever, right? So we also know that interaction with students in general education classrooms is beneficial to everyone, for building social skills, for students without disabilities to experience people that are different and that kind of thing. So if we have a regionalized, say, behavior disorder area, a student who that's not their home school necessarily, how do we deal with that? How are we going to provide a least restrictive environment for those students?
That's an excellent question. And so inside of these programmings, that's why it's called a continuum of care. So for a student to get to, say, a regional behavior program, it's because what's being provided in their home school is not efficient enough. It would be like withholding a resource from a child if we did not allow them to have access to this next level of continuum of care. Our staff do a wonderful job of progress monitoring, working on goals. They're constantly looking at what's the least restrictive environment. And so if a student does go to one of our more restrictive programming, it's because that's a need that they show. And when they show success, our goal is, and we have worked really hard at that over the last 5 years, is to get our kids to the most least restrictive environment. And if Courtney were here, she would tell you that she does not like offsite programming, and offsite programming is necessary. So when we talk about regional programs, that might be in a building. It might be a section of a building where students can actually have access to the core instruction as appropriate. We also know that sometimes we have difficulty collecting that data because the students don't have access to that. So that's where all of those things are going to be answered inside of this facility master planning. And I'm really excited about that because up until now, we've been doing the best we can retrofitting programs inside of our regions. But can you imagine programs that are tied to a specific building where that staff is really adept and understand that and collecting data and allow students to move forward? A lot of times what happens is the student doesn't want to go back to their home building because they really like being in that space. And so those are all things that I'm very excited about in this. And that is at the front of everyone's mind because we know that that's what's best for our kids.
And I appreciate that. What I don't want to happen is what I heard about in the past when I sort of first was elected to the school board, where parents would say, well, now my kid has to go to this elementary school. Well, now they move that program to this elementary school. And kids who have very specific needs ended up going to multiple different locations throughout their years because we didn't have that established staff.
That is exactly what we're trying to stop. That's the actual problem that we're trying to solve.
Okay.
Creating predictability, and then as a regionalized solution, just to echo what superintendent mentioned, is when it's regionalized, they're still in that pathway. So they're still moving from that elementary to middle to high school. So they're still with a cohort that makes sense for them as well.
Is that it, Dr. Beck?
One other, this is back to the preschool programming. I think if I had to say what the biggest barrier to access to preschool is, it's the fact that it's only a half day. So I really appreciate that we are looking into trying to solve this problem. I know not every building is able to have a preschool at the moment, like it requires different facilities. But I think in order to really make this work, we have to make a concerted effort to figure out how we can provide that wraparound care. Because otherwise it's not going to be accessible to a lot of people.
A good portion of this is you're piloting that now. And so having that data will help us understand.
Director Hayes, do you have anything? No. Oh, Dr. Botts.
I have two questions, and then I might have a thought. What impact do you think, if we can make these, whatever the recommendations are, and we can, first, we would need a bond issue, right, to be able to do the phase 2. Is that not correct?
That's something that we're going to have to evaluate around the 28-29 school year start. So we'll have to start looking at that the 27-28 school year.
I was kind of under that impression, though, that was pretty much what might have to happen. Assuming all these physical plant things take place, what impact do you think it will have on the chronic, consistent, over-budgeting, negative balances in special ed that occur year after year after year?
That's a great question. I think the consolidation of resources will help with that. I think the the principals in those buildings where these where these programs would be in the future, they'll have a better grasp on the resources that are necessary in those larger programs. Because right now we're trying to serve all those needs in every single building, and so right now we don't have a regional approach to our behavior programs or ID programs. So we're trying to put that in each one of our buildings because we're trying to do exactly what Dr. Beck talked about. And so I think it will have a positive impact on the special ed deficit.
Did you have a thought you wanted to share? Oh, okay. Okay, anybody else? Thank you very much. I do have a few comments, but they're going to TJ.
Well, thank
So,
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Next up, board reports. Director Beck?
Well, I was just going to say, I attended at least part of the showing up together. I know a number of you were there the whole time, so I'll let you talk about it. But the part that I did see was really interesting and helpful, and I've actually used one of the icebreakers that the speaker used in my class today. Didn't go over quite as well, but I'm not as well practiced with it, so I'll get to it. I'll perfect it. But I also just wanted to congratulate everyone on starting off their first day of school for the new school year, and wish all the new kindergartners luck tomorrow.
Director Hayes?
The showing up was a great experience. I like the format and the way the employees were awarded this year. That was awesome. On a sadder note, I would like to express condolence for the board for Claudia and Tom Woods in the loss of their son, Adam.
Anybody else? Director Boston?
I think showing up together was a great kickoff for all our employees in the district. The motivational speaker was great, but I think more importantly was our message from our superintendent. And again, just another time where he just plain nailed it.
First of all, welcome back to all students and staff and everybody who had their first day today, except kindergartners who have theirs tomorrow. Remember, the speed limit is 25, and I saw police in those speed zones, so unless you want a ticket, you better slow it down. Showing up together, I really liked the recognition because I loved it that when they got their 10-year, 20, 30, 40-year pin, their school really applauded and cheered for them, and that was nice to see versus a couple years ago when only 3 or 4 people showed up for that. So I thought that was a good move. Let's see. Oh, also, and the speaker was really, really good. It made me excited, and I'm not even going back to school, but I was like, oh, that's a great idea. And a plug on Thursday, Friday, Saturday at 7 o'clock at Central High Auditorium. They are putting on Les Mis. It is a district-wide musical, West, Central, North, and I think there's an elementary or junior high kid in there as well. And on Sunday, it is at 2 o'clock. Please support this. This is the first time they've done this district-wide. They spent their summers practicing, put in a lot of hard work. It'd be a shame if they didn't fill the auditorium all 4 times. So there's my plug. Everybody good? Okay. Next up, communications. Brenda, is this an online one or there? No. Okay, so I don't have any. Okay, so we will move on to the consent agenda.
Madam President,
Director Hayes.
That was Director Beck.
Director Beck.
Oh, I'm sorry, Director Beck. Oh my gosh, I knew exactly what I was saying, but I didn't.
That's okay. I move the board approve the consent agenda as written.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments? Oh, any questions, comments? Seeing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next up, committee reports. Breaking barriers,
None this time.
legislative advocacy, local school advisory committee.
The committee is switching to lunchtime meetings this year, and a date has not yet been established for the first meeting, but emails have gone out.
Long-range facility planning.
We just had a presentation.
Good job. Policy. Yeah. Policy, we met last week, and lots of the policies are showing up today on the agenda. Recognition, I think showing up together, recognizing people with 10, 20, 30, and 40 years with the district went well. And finance, nothing tonight. Okay, thank you. Items requiring action. Okay, first up is choose a member of objection panel for the November city school election.
Madam,
Director Poston.
I move to approve Linda Hayes to serve on the objection panel if an objection hearing is required for the November 2025 city schools election.
Could I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions?
Just for anybody out there in the ether, this is not something we've had to do before. Was this?
This is something that always should have been there, but we've never actually appointed the third person.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I was asking. I was like, this is not something that
It's not new that came
It's
up.
not
just
new, but it's new that we're
new
doing
that
it.
we're actually appointing the third, right?
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, new to us. That's right. Any others? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Policies for approval. And before we go through these, I want to say, Brenda, thanks. That book of policies was a great way to read them all. Okay, so may I have a motion on the policies?
Madam President,
Director Beck.
I move to approve policies 104, 211, 402.02, 402.03, 405.02, 411.02, 501.03, 501.09, 507.01, 507.02, 603.05, 804.05, rescission of 503.16 and 504.03, and approval of 503.04, 504.02, 504.06, 505.15, 505.16, 506.03, 507.05, 507.07, and 507.09.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. I like it a little sing-songier, but that's okay. Any questions on the policies? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Next up, discussion items. Policy for board discussion. It's just on student government. Any questions? Seeing none, this will come up later for a vote. Installing heating and ventilation for the South Maintenance Building. Superintendent.
This is a building where our maintenance team is going to store a lot of our equipment. So that way, when we do have a snow day, we do have snow removal, things that we need to work on during the winter, we'll be able to get in there and do that as necessary. This is the building just to the south of the brand new bus barn that kind of goes down the hill, right, Joe? And this is necessary because we're vacating the armory building where we used to store all of our trucks to put the central indoor hitting locker rooms and things in there. One of the questions raised was, how come did we get multiple bids? We went through Omni on this, which then allowed us to reduce the engineering fee.
Correct.
On there. That's a question that came today from Director Poshton. So now we entertain any discussion on it. Thanks for being here too.
Sure, no problem.
Anybody have a question? Is this a new building that was, it was there, the one that's there. Got it. I know where it's at then.
Oh, yeah, it's behind the new bus barn. Is that right?
The one that kind of goes,
Got it.
the one that kind of goes down
Okay.
down the hill a little bit.
Any other questions, comments?
Not a question, but a comment. It was really helpful to learn that we're vacating one building because of the things that we're doing for Central into this building. That shed whole new light on this. That would have been really helpful to include in the memorandum.
I'll know that for next time.
Okay. Be up for action vote at the next regular meeting. Next is installing heating and ventilation for the, oh, sorry, I'm one behind. Jeez. Superintendent's report.
Okay. Can you go to the top, Brenda? I have a couple videos to share too. Slide 1. Thank you. So to start our day off, the partnership with our Davenport Police Department, we always bring a news team to go to an elementary building. Typically, we go to Madison because that is one of the most dangerous places in Davenport, right along Brady and Locust. But today we thought we'd switch it up and go to Harrison because that's also a very busy street front of the school. This is Lieutenant Smith doing interviews. Right behind him, there's a motorcycle police officer with Sergeant Quick lined up, ready to go and greet anybody that thinks that it was a good idea to go a little faster than they should through our school zones. And sure enough, we had a couple people that were in a hurry to go to work today. But overall, our community was very responsive in this area. I was very impressed with the flow of traffic going through that area. But I think it also just goes to show that our police department cares deeply about the safety of our students. The interactions that they had with a lot of our parents and families. This corner right here is Vine and 53rd across the street from Harrison. And this is a very popular spot where our parents stop and wave their kids up to the crosswalk. And so we got to speak with a lot of parents on their first day to school and got to interact with our SRO officers that were there and our lieutenants and sergeants. And so it was a great way to start the day. After that, I wanted to go down to Hayes and thank Mr. Goddard. Mr. Goddard, principal at Hayes, subbed for me this weekend. This is the weekend where we usually go over the edge for Big Brothers Big Sisters. And I have a real problem with my foot right now, and I could not go over the edge. And so he subbed for me, and I wanted to go down and just thank him and for being a hero. But what I ran into was an actual master's class on how to start the school year. Every single person in that building was practicing procedures. Mr. Goddard himself had an entire class in the cafeteria, and he does this with every class. And he teaches them how to go through the line at every grade level. So, Brent, if you wouldn't mind playing that video in the middle, this was this morning.
Hey, school is really neat.
Hey, school is really neat.
Hey, school just can't be beat.
Hey, school just can't be beat.
We are awesome. We are cool.
We are awesome. We are cool.
We do our best when we're in school.
We do our best when we're in school.
Eyes forward.
1, 2.
Hands down.
3, 4.
Voices off.
1, 2, 3, 4.
So every kid in that, so the picture on the left is every kid in that building doing the same thing. And as you could tell, that's first day of school, and those kids already knew that. They were returning students. There's a returning culture in that building. It literally was. The counselor was doing lessons on the playground. The Sam was introducing herself to every single kid in the building and showing them what they expect in the bathroom. It was amazing. And so I went from there right to Jefferson, saw the same exact thing. Now this is an excellent way to come back to school to start. This is at Harrison, and we have a little kiddo being kind. But also, I believe this next video might sum up how we feel about the way the year started.
Okay, hi Davenport Schools. I hope you guys have a great year this year and have a great day today. I hope that you learn a bunch of new stuff.
So if I could like wrap up the vibe of the start of school into a video, that was it. Lots of smiling faces. In the next slide, lots of students introducing themselves. So this is a classroom scavenger hunt at SMART. And so the picture there, the kids are interacting with one another, getting to know their classmates. And this is what we saw all day long. And the next slide is a Davenport North, where they kicked the year off. And this is very typical of Mr. Johnson, where his expectations are set at the beginning of the year. So all day long, this is what we saw. We saw relationships being built. We saw procedures being set, and a lot of learning was occurring. I asked the cabinet to capture pictures and send them to. There are 50 pictures that were sent, and a lot of them were diving into lessons and interacting and engaging already. There were several classrooms that I walked into where it was 100% engagement, and they were engaged in activities. So overall, there were bumps. We stubbed our toe today, as you would expect. But overall, once our students got into our buildings, it was a very, very positive start to the school year. That concludes my report.
Administrative report. Brenda, you want to report on school board elections?
Sure. Just a reminder that the 2025 combined city school election is going to be held on Tuesday, November 4th. School board members whose terms expire are Ward, Potts, Beck, and Barnes. So on the ballot will be 3 4-year terms and 1 2-year term. Candidate filing actually begins today and lasts until the 18th of September. You can certainly come get a packet from me. I have them ready for pickup. All necessary forms are also available on the Secretary of State website. Everything does have to be returned to me, however.
Thank you. Any board requests? I don't see any. Board reflections. Director Ward.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to the JA team for their presentation tonight, and on the long range facility planning. I think a lot of big decisions getting to be made there, and timelines coming up to project the future there. So exciting stuff. And then the growing together, I thought was awesome this week. And TJ, looks like it rolled straight forward into first day of school, which I know that's exactly how the plan is. So it's good to see. Thank you for sharing those videos and those pictures from today. So thank you.
Director Barnes.
Just want to express my excitement for the beginning of school year. It's a great reminder of why we do this and how important it is to our community and how important it is to our families and students.
Director Beck.
Yeah, I really appreciated the JA presentation. It's one of those things that I kind of forget about sometimes. And it's nice to hear how they're adjusting to meet the needs of the volunteers and the students. I think it's an important program. But I think the thing I was most excited about was the first day of school pictures and videos and and the showing up together, the kind of energy that was there. It was just, it's a good day. Happy first day.
Director Potts.
I would reflect upon the presentation we had on long-range facilities because that's a lofty goal. It's not as jazzy as phase one. You know, there's no cranes. You know, there's no. But if we can do it, we will, for the first time, provide predictability, routine, and structure to the special ed department, which may help reduce its tendency to metastasize chronically.
Thank you, Director Hayes.
I too enjoyed the clear explanation of the phase two of the long range, and just happy to see how happy everyone was for the first day of school. Harrison School has been a problem for me every time I go across 53rd and see how fast people are going. It's like, don't you acknowledge the fact that these kids are crossing for school? And I like the fact that Quick was out there today and you were able to slow someone down. So hopefully people will start slowing down and pay attention to the kids, not only up there, but throughout the district.
Thank you, Director Poston.
Well, as monumental as phase one for our master plan was, I think phase two is going to be equally important. And so I'm anxious to see what our committee comes up with. And I think whatever it will be positive for our students.
Superintendent Schneckloff.
It was amazing to see Sergeant Quick in a car that's not a 1999 Crown Vic. They gave him a really fast car today, and so we know you're going to go back to your comfortable Crown Vic. But it was neat to see that. Again, thank you. It was a great partnership with the Davenport Police Department. They care deeply about our kids, and I think it made a huge difference, and I think it lifted the north side. I want to echo the long-range facility. This is a different game, and I agree. This has the opportunity to have a huge impact, and it's going to be harder when you're dealing with programs that where there's institutional pathways like Director Potts talked about. I think that's a really hard lift, and how do we move forward? I can see the horizon, and I'm really excited about that. And also, we're going to have to be really creative because we're not sitting on the saved dollars like we were on the first phase. So the notion of how do we navigate that is going to be really difficult and hard, and I'm incredibly excited about doing the work.
Thank you. I also appreciated the JA update. There's some changes since I was involved with JA, so it's interesting to hear. Long-range facility, I think it's good that we're looking at solving some issues that are issues. The video of the little girl today, I saw it on Facebook. I'm like, wow, look how happy she is to be there. And on showing up together, that's what make it happy and fun, so they want to come back on day two. And I was like, that little girl's having fun. And don't forget to go to the musical at Central High, all district musical. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.